So let's start with a fun fact. Osman I's name may not be Osman at all. The only reason why we know about his existence was because of his son Orhan. Osman I might have been called Ataman or Utman. He may or may not be a Muslim either. We know surprisingly little about him, which is a bit weird considering that we know the Ottoman Empire as the Ottoman Empire, as in Osman's empire. This is also weird, especially when we consider the fact that the Ottoman Empire was obsessed with recording things. The author notes that the Ottomans recorded trackings, surveys, documents, and much more with a lot of detail, distinguishing themselves from contemporary countries. The obsession with recording went hand in hand with how land, aka Timars and Sanjaks, was given and controlled, and contrary to common misconception, it wasn't an exclusive Muslim endeavor. Formerly Christian rulers controlled Sanjaks alongside Muslims. As an example, the Dynamite Register of 1431 to 1432 mentions that 60 out of 335 Sipahis were given to Christians. This wasn't an uncommon occurrence either, and similar numbers ranging from 10 to around 50% of the land being given to Christians occurred on various areas of the Balkan. The majority of the land was still controlled by a military Muslim elite, but the number of Christians controlling and being an integral and active part of the system was considerable nonetheless. Muslim-controlled land within the Ottoman Empire wasn't exclusively and forever Muslim either. When a Muslim Sipahi, aka cavalryman, did not show up for a campaign, he could lose his land to Christians. As an example for a Christian controlling such a land, the Frankish deserter named Gilbertus Cancellarisu received Timars and later, after his acquisition of land, converted to Islam. However, the Ottomans were not just satisfied with controlling land. They were also very keen and interested in rebuilding the land they have control over. Many new towns were actually founded or rebuilt or repopulated by the Ottomans. As an example, Novi Pazar, which was on the route from Sarajevo to Skopje via Kosovo, was such a city. It was founded by an Ottoman governor named Gazi Isabe of Skopje and included mosques, baths, inns, soup kitchens, and around 56 shops. To give another and a more famous example, Sarajevo was another Ottoman-founded city created by two beylerbeys. Ishak Bey Ishakovic selected the site for the city. By 1477, Sarajevo had already attracted over 150 households, about 2/3 of whom were Christian. The Hungarians actually burned down the entire city in 1480, but around 40 years later and with the conquest of Belgrade, the city was rebuilt by the governor Gazi Husrev Bey, who was the grandson of Sultan Bayezid. With the conquest of Belgrade, the city was repopulated akin to how Constantinople was repopulated. After Belgrade's conquest, the author notes how Christians, Jews, Gypsies, and many more ethnicities found new homes in Belgrade, the majority of whom were Muslim Turks. At one point, so the author notes, Belgrade's population was about 60% Muslim. The idea of resettling areas with Muslim Turks actually didn't come from the Ottoman dynasty, but from Evrenos, a subordinate of Murad I. He suggested that the abandoned towns were to be resettled by Anatolian Muslims. But it wasn't just Muslim cities that profited from Ottoman rule. One accusation that comes up by certain Kemalist nationalists is the accusation that Anatolia was pretty much ignored, which is not the case. Ottoman rule guaranteed security on the Silk Road. Towns such as Bursa, Ankara, Tokat, Sivas, and Konya profited from. Konya in particular was along the pilgrimage route, which ensured a constant flow of essentially religious tourists. So these cities were sitting on the trade and pilgrimage route. Lastly, I would like to point at the Jizija, since some people make a massive deal out of it. There wasn't a uniform policy towards non-Muslims. Sometimes the Jizya wasn't even collected, like at all. Sometimes one gold piece was paid by Christian villagers that they were paying under Christian rule anyways. And sometimes Muslim villages that belonged to a Christian lord paid jizya as well. Either way, the author goes a bit into depth on Murad and why he gave his power away to Fatih Sultan Mehmed, his son. During the campaign against Hungary, the campaign was riddled with mistakes, mismanagement, and indiscipline within the army, which included a scorched earth retreat from Sofia towards Plovdiv. something Murad deeply regretted. After beating his incompetent officers and confiscating their fees, he left the throne to his son Fatih Sultan Mehmed, which the Christians used as an opportunity to break the peace agreement. This crusade the Christians started would culminate in the Battle of Varna with a stunning victory for the Ottomans. His son Fatih Sultan Mehmed would eventually conquer Constantinople, and he was utterly mesmerized by the city. He, quote, hoping to protect the urban fabric, the Sultan had sent an envoy with the canonical invitation to surrender, which if accepted would have prevented plunder. This option was unfortunately wasted, and Ottoman troops pillaged the city. Other Muslims opposed a negotiation peace, preferring to see the city razed. Mehmed halted the looting the day after the walls were breached and claimed the Sultan's lawful 1/5 as the stones of the city, its property and appurtenances. Not wanting to lose the monumental heritage the city possessed, Fatih went as far as drawing his sword against a soldier of his own who wanted to damage the floor of the Hagia Sophia. Fully intended to rebuild the city, Fatih directed a massive amount of money, resulting in the city growing to a population with 60% of them being Muslim by 1478. Content with Fatih's investment, and also surely out of greed, many of the formerly noble Greek households converted to Islam and joined the Ottoman court. Aşıkpaşazade even complained about the massive increase in the formerly Christian nobles filling the ranks of the Ottomans. Fun fact, Karamanid claimants were sent into exile after the conquest of Konya, but granted Uzun Hasan's son governorship over the Sivas Sanjak, marrying his daughter to him. The grandson of Uzun Hasan, Shaykh Junayd, started the foundation of the Safavid Empire, so the Safavids and the Ottoman dynasty are loosely related to each other. Fun fact number 2. Willing and free conversion happened throughout the empire. Most strongly in Bosnia, where by 1528 around 50% of the population was Muslim. By 1540 the number rose to 65%. By 1604 it was over 90%. Smederevo, which fell under Ottoman hands at the same time, remained 85% Christian. It is unclear why Bosniaks in particular converted, but one theory is that the Christian domination the Bosnian people followed was quite similar to Islam to begin with.